My name is Dr. Sarah Mitchell, and I've been practicing veterinary medicine in rural Montana for 15 years. I thought I'd seen everything until that storm-ravaged Tuesday in March 2023. The call came at 3:47 a.m., jolting me from restless sleep. "Doc, it's Tom Brennan from Pine Ridge Ranch. We got an emergency." His voice cracked with panic. "My 8-year-old daughter Emma, she's burning up with fever and the roads are completely washed out. No ambulance can get through, and our truck got swept away trying to cross Miller's Creek." I grabbed my medical bag, knowing this wasn't exactly my specialty, but in these remote parts, we all wear multiple hats. When I arrived at my clinic, I found something that would change my understanding of animal intelligence forever. Standing in my parking lot, completely soaked and trembling, was Thunder, a magnificent chestnut mare I'd treated just months before. She belonged to the Brennan family, but what was she doing here 20 kilometers from home in the middle of a devastating storm? As I approached, Thunder didn't shy away. Instead, she walked directly to my clinic door and began pawing at it urgently. Her eyes held something I'd never seen before in an animal: pure, desperate intelligence. She whinnied softly, almost pleadingly, as if trying to communicate something crucial. That's when I noticed the makeshift harness around her chest, clearly fashioned by human hands. Someone had sent her here, but why? And how did she navigate those treacherous, flooded roads in complete darkness? The pieces began falling into place as my phone buzzed with another frantic call from Tom. "Doc, I sent Thunder to find you. I know it sounds crazy, but she's the smartest horse I've ever known. Emma's getting worse and you're our only hope." The connection was breaking up, but I caught the essential details. Emma had developed a high fever and showed signs of severe dehydration. Without proper medical intervention, she could slip into a dangerous state within hours. Looking at Thunder, I made a decision that went against every logical bone in my body. I was going to trust this horse to guide me back through 20 kilometers of storm-damaged terrain, carrying potentially life-saving medication for a critically ill child. But as I prepared the emergency medical supplies, I couldn't shake the feeling that there was something more to this story. Something that would challenge everything I believed about the bond between humans and animals. Thunder seemed to understand the urgency. She stood perfectly still as I secured the waterproof medical kit to her harness, her ears constantly swiveling toward the direction of home. The storm was intensifying, but there was a determination in her stance that filled me with unexpected confidence. Whatever lay ahead on that dangerous journey, I knew I was about to witness something extraordinary. Little did I know just how extraordinary it would prove to be. I watched Thunder disappear into the storm with a mixture of hope and dread. The medical kit strapped to her back contained antibiotics, fever reducers, and electrolyte solutions, everything a desperately ill child might need to survive the night. But as I stood there in the howling wind, doubts crept in. Had I just sent a horse on a suicide mission? The Weather Service had issued warnings about flash floods, fallen trees, and unstable ground conditions. Even experienced rescue teams wouldn't attempt this journey. What I didn't know was that Thunder's journey had begun long before that stormy night. 3 months earlier, when I'd treated her for a severe leg injury, Tom Brennan had shared something remarkable with me. "Doc, this horse has been with our family for 12 years, but she's always been different. Almost like she understands things no animal should understand." He told me how Thunder had once led them to Emma when she'd gotten lost in the woods, and how she seemed to sense medical emergencies before anyone else noticed the symptoms. As Thunder pushed through the first few kilometers, fighting against winds that threatened to knock her sideways, her extraordinary abilities became apparent. Where the main road had been completely washed out, she instinctively found deer trails that remained passable. When fallen trees blocked her path, she navigated around them with an uncanny sense of direction that seemed to transcend normal animal navigation. It was as if she possessed an internal GPS system calibrated specifically for this life-or-death mission. Meanwhile, back at the Brennan Ranch, Emma's condition was deteriorating rapidly. Her fever had spiked to 104 degrees Fahrenheit, and she was drifting in and out of consciousness. Tom and his wife Maria took turns applying cool cloths to her forehead, but they both knew they were fighting a losing battle against time. Every few minutes, Tom would step outside, straining to hear any sound of Thunder's return over the storm's fury. The irony wasn't lost on him. His daughter's life now depended entirely on the intelligence and determination of a horse. But Thunder was proving to be far more than just an intelligent animal. As she navigated the treacherous terrain, she demonstrated problem-solving skills that bordered on the supernatural. When she encountered Miller's Creek, swollen to 3 times its normal width, she didn't attempt the dangerous crossing. Instead, she followed the bank upstream for nearly a kilometer until she found a fallen log that created a natural bridge. Carefully testing each step, she crossed with the precious medical supplies intact. The most remarkable moment came when Thunder reached the halfway point of her journey. Exhausted and struggling against the elements, she stopped at an abandoned farmhouse that I later learned had been empty for over a decade. But somehow she knew that the old well there still contained clean water. After drinking deeply, she seemed to gather renewed strength for the remaining kilometers ahead. It was as if she possessed not just intelligence, but actual knowledge of the landscape that surpassed human familiarity with the area. What I couldn't have known at the time was that Thunder's journey was being guided by something far more profound than animal instinct. But that revelation would have to wait until I uncovered the truth about Emma's condition, and the real reason why only Thunder could make this impossible journey succeed. By 5:30 a.m., Thunder had covered 15 of the 20 kilometers, but the most dangerous part of her journey lay ahead. The final stretch required crossing Devil's Canyon, where the old suspension bridge had been deemed unsafe for vehicles but might still support a single horse. In normal conditions it would be challenging. In this storm it was potentially suicidal. Yet Thunder approached the swaying bridge without hesitation, as if she understood that turning back now would mean losing Emma forever. What happened next defied everything I thought I knew about animal behavior. Thunder didn't simply charge across the bridge in panic or fear. Instead, she tested each wooden plank with her front hoof, distributing her weight carefully and pausing whenever the structure swayed too violently in the wind. It was a methodical, almost human-like approach to problem-solving. Several times, rotted planks cracked under her weight, but she adapted her path instantly, finding the strongest sections of the bridge through what seemed like pure intuition. Back at the ranch, Tom had made a heartbreaking decision. Emma's breathing had become shallow and irregular, and her skin had taken on a grayish pallor that terrified both parents. "If Thunder doesn't make it back in the next hour," he told Maria, "I'm going to attempt to carry Emma out on foot." It was essentially a death sentence for both of them, but watching his daughter slip away was unbearable. Maria gripped his hand, knowing they had no choice but to trust in their remarkable horse. Meanwhile, I was pacing my clinic, second-guessing my decision to send medication with Thunder instead of attempting the journey myself. Every weather update made the situation sound worse. Radio reports spoke of mudslides, power lines down, and emergency services completely overwhelmed. If Thunder didn't make it through, not only would Emma suffer, but I would have to live with the knowledge that I'd sent a beloved family horse to her death in a storm that no animal should have been asked to brave. But Thunder was proving to be far more resilient than anyone had imagined. After successfully crossing Devil's Canyon, she entered the final 5-kilometer stretch, a winding mountain trail that led directly to the Brennan Ranch. This was familiar territory, but the storm had transformed it into an alien landscape. Familiar landmarks were gone, swept away by floods or obscured by fallen debris. Yet Thunder pressed on, guided by what seemed like a supernatural sense of direction. The most incredible moment came when Thunder encountered a massive rockslide that had completely blocked the trail. Any normal animal would have turned back, defeated. Instead, Thunder began climbing, up the steep slope beside the slide. She picked her way carefully through loose rocks and unstable terrain, her hooves finding purchase on surfaces that seemed impossible to navigate. With the medical kit still securely fastened to her back, she worked her way around the obstacle, driven by a determination that transcended mere animal instinct. As the first gray light of dawn began to break through the storm clouds, Thunder finally crested the last hill before the Brennan Ranch. She was exhausted, covered in mud, and bleeding from several cuts where sharp rocks had caught her legs. But the precious medical supplies were intact, and Emma's salvation was now just 2 kilometers away. What none of us realized was that Thunder's journey was about to reveal a truth that would change our understanding of the bond between this family and their extraordinary horse forever. At 6:42 a.m., Tom Brennan heard the sound he'd been praying for all night, Thunder's distinctive whinny echoing across the ranch yard. He rushed outside to find his beloved horse standing by the porch, swaying with exhaustion but alert, the medical kit still secured to her back. "She made it," he shouted to Maria. Thunder actually made it through. As he carefully removed the waterproof kit, his hands shook with a mixture of relief and amazement. Inside, every vial and medication was perfectly intact, protected by Thunder's careful navigation through 20 kilometers of hellish terrain. Working quickly, Tom administered the antibiotics and fever reducer exactly as I'd instructed over the phone before the lines went dead. Within 30 minutes, Emma's temperature began to drop. By 8 a.m. she was conscious and asking for water. By noon, the color had returned to her cheeks and she was sitting up in bed asking about Thunder. The horse had quite literally saved her life, but as I would later discover, there was a deeper connection between Emma and Thunder that made this rescue even more extraordinary. Meanwhile, Thunder had collapsed in her stall, utterly spent from the ordeal. Tom examined her carefully, treating the cuts and scrapes she'd sustained during her heroic journey. But what amazed him most wasn't the physical evidence of her struggle. It was the look in her eyes. There was something almost human in her expression, a profound satisfaction as if she understood exactly what she had accomplished. It's like she knew, Tom later told me. Like she knew Emma would die without those medications. When I finally reached the ranch 3 days later, after the roads had been cleared, I expected to find a typical recovery story. Instead, I discovered something that challenged every scientific principle I'd learned in veterinary school. Emma wasn't just better, she was completely transformed. The pale, sickly child I'd examined just weeks before had been replaced by a vibrant, healthy girl who seemed to glow with energy. But more puzzling was her relationship with Thunder. "Dr. Mitchell," Emma said as she led me to Thunder's stall, "Thunder and I have always been connected. I knew she was coming to save me even before Daddy sent her." She placed her small hand on the horse's neck, and Thunder immediately lowered her head to nuzzle the child's face. "We understand each other," Emma continued. "We always have." What she said next made my blood run cold. "Thunder got sick the same day I did, didn't she? And she got better when I got better." Tom's face went white. He'd been so focused on Emma's crisis that he hadn't mentioned Thunder's own illness. A sudden onset of symptoms that had begun the exact same day Emma fell sick. Thunder had been lethargic, refusing food and showing signs of distress. But Tom hadn't connected the two incidents until Emma pointed it out. Now, looking at both the child and the horse, both radiating health and vitality, he began to understand that their bond went far deeper than anyone had realized. That night, as I reviewed everything that had happened, I started to piece together a truth that would sound impossible to anyone who hadn't witnessed it firsthand. Thunder's 20-kilometer journey wasn't just about delivering medicine to a sick child. It was about something far more profound, a connection between a girl and her horse that transcended the normal boundaries between species. But the real revelation was still to come. 6 months after Thunder's heroic journey, I received a call that would finally reveal the full truth about what I had witnessed. Dr. Elena Rodriguez, a researcher from the University of Colorado studying human-animal bonds, had heard about our story through veterinary journals. "Dr. Mitchell," she said, "I believe Emma Brennan and Thunder represent something we've only theorized about, a genuine psychic connection between human and animal." Dr. Rodriguez arrived at the ranch with sophisticated monitoring equipment, prepared to study Emma and Thunder's relationship scientifically. What she discovered defied conventional understanding. When Emma's heart rate increased, Thunder's did too, even when they were separated by significant distances. When Thunder experienced mild stress, Emma showed corresponding physiological responses. They were, in the most literal sense, connected at a neurological level that science was only beginning to understand. But the most shocking revelation came when we reviewed the timeline of that stormy night. Emma had fallen ill with what we'd assumed was a severe infection, but Dr. Rodriguez's tests revealed something extraordinary. Emma hadn't been sick at all, not in the traditional sense. She had been experiencing what researchers call empathic absorption syndrome, where individuals with extraordinary sensitivity take on the physical symptoms of others' emotional or physical distress. Thunder had been the one who was actually sick, suffering from a rare equine illness that can be fatal if untreated. The medicine Thunder carried wasn't really for Emma, Dr. Rodriguez explained to the stunned family. Emma was experiencing Thunder's illness through their psychic connection. When Thunder delivered the medication and recovered, Emma's symptoms disappeared because she was no longer absorbing Thunder's distress. The antibiotics I'd sent had indeed saved a life, Thunder's life, while simultaneously healing Emma through their inexplicable bond. This revelation reframed everything about that miraculous night. Thunder hadn't just been delivering medicine to save Emma. She had been saving herself, guided by an intelligence that understood their shared condition better than any of us could have imagined. Her 20-kilometer journey through the storm wasn't just about courage and determination. It was about survival, powered by a connection so profound that illness in one meant illness in both, and healing in one meant healing in both. Tom and Maria were speechless as they absorbed this information. Their daughter wasn't just a horse lover. She was psychically bonded to Thunder in a way that made them, in essence, one connected being. "It explains so much," Maria whispered. "Emma always knew when Thunder was hurt or scared, even when the horse was miles away. We thought it was just a child's imagination, but it was real." As I drove away from the ranch that day, I reflected on how this experience had changed my understanding of the natural world. Thunder's journey hadn't been impossible at all. It had been inevitable. When two beings share such a profound connection, the boundaries of what's possible expand beyond our scientific comprehension. That storm night in March, I hadn't just witnessed a brave horse saving a sick child. I had witnessed something far more extraordinary. Proof that the bonds between living beings can transcend the physical limitations we think define our world. Emma and Thunder remain connected to this day, a living testament to the mysterious forces that link us all in ways we're only beginning to understand. And sometimes, late at night when the wind is howling, I think about that impossible journey and realize that in a universe full of unexplained connections, perhaps nothing is truly impossible after all.